Hello, and let's talk about landscapes. I have chosen to use chalk pastels in place of paint. One, so we can also get a cool demo of using chalk pastels. And two, because they work very similarly to paint. You layer with them, you blend with them just like paint. So first, let's plan our composition with a background, middle ground, and foreground and sketch it lightly. Draw it light until you get it right. Some wise teacher always tells you that. All right, you can barely even see, or literally not see, probably in this video, my sketch. And that's because it is just for me. I don't want it to show up when I'm done. It's just there to help me block off my color. So here you see me, kind of fast and furious. Remember, this is in super hyper speed, so you're not going to go anywhere near this fast, but for this part of the work, you can work pretty quickly. So I'm laying down the blue for my water, the green for my foliage in the background, and here in a second I'll move into the foreground. Lay down those large blocks of color. Don't forget to add multiple values and colors, especially if you're painting. It's super easy to blend some different shades in there. Then you can go ahead and start working on that background. Blending as you go, trying to get all those interesting colors, variations in there. And remember, in the background, there's less detail and smaller size. And try to work from the background to the foreground. That way you can overlap with layers. Blend them together so that it's seamless. You can't see which one you did first, or you want to make those colors completely combined, no white space showing through. Add lots of shadows, highlights, and textures to the foreground. So here I'm adding the bark to my tree. That's going to give lots of texture, lots of different recesses for the shadows to gather and the highlights to show up. I'm pretending that my light source is coming from the right, so I've got more highlights on the right side of the trunk versus a few more shadows on the left side of the trunk. Having those shadows mostly on the left and right side, though, does make it look more round and gives the tree some more form. Once you start working on leaves and things, don't get overwhelmed and feel like you have to draw every single leaf, but at the same time, you don't want that tree leafy part to be so solid that you can't see through it. If you ever take a look at a tree outside, you can usually see some sunlight coming through, right? Here I'm starting to work on that very front foreground. Adding more detail, you can see that again, the size with the grass is taller or appears taller in the foreground than when it gets closer. So also good tricks, warm colors advance, cool colors recede, and it's almost always darker in the foreground. Obviously with art, rules are made to be broken and there's always those exceptions. But for the most part, you can try to have those warm colors advance and cool colors recede, and usually that foreground is slightly darker than the background, showing that depth. That's what you're really looking for. Here I'm going back with another layer of greens and yellows. That's the eraser tip of my chalk pastel pencil after I added that fine detail, and you can see that that's really, those highlights are what's making that look much more realistic, much more three-dimensional, really giving the texture of those leaves